Imagine this. You're sitting in a fancy restaurant, surrounded by family and friends, celebrating your daughter's college graduation. Glasses are raised, everyone's smiling, until your husband, of nearly 3 decades, stands up and instead of toasting his daughter, announces to the entire room that he's leaving you for another woman. Now, most people would break down right then and there, cry, scream, maybe even storm out in humiliation. But not me, because what he didn't know was that for months I had been preparing for this exact moment. And inside the cream-colored envelope I placed beside his plate was the beginning of his downfall. If you've ever been betrayed, underestimated, or disrespected, and dreamed of serving someone the kind of justice they never forget, hit that like button, subscribe, and get ready. Because this isn't just a story about heartbreak. This is the story of how I turned my husband's new life into his worst nightmare, and finally claimed the life I always deserved. My name is Bianca Caldwell. I am 54 years old, and on the day of my daughter's graduation, I stopped being a wife. The restaurant was buzzing with celebration. My Amelia, my pride, sat beside me, still wearing her graduation cap. The waiters floated around with champagne flutes, silverware clinked, laughter echoed. Then, without warning, Gregory, my husband of 28 years, stood up. He raised his glass, ready for what everyone assumed would be a toast to Amelia. Instead, he said 6 words that cracked open the life I thought I had. I've decided to start a new life without you. The silence that followed was deafening. 50 pairs of eyes snapped toward me, some in shock, some in pity, some in morbid anticipation. They expected a scene, me bursting into tears, screaming, or collapsing. But I didn't give them the satisfaction. Instead, I smiled, a calm, deliberate smile that masked the storm inside me. I told him, "Congratulations on your honesty." Then I pulled out the envelope from my handbag, slid it across the table, kissed Amelia's cheek, and left. That was the last time Gregory ever saw me as the weak, accommodating wife he thought he could humiliate. Let me tell you something about sacrifice. It doesn't happen in one grand gesture. It happens in 1,000 small ones. I sacrificed my career when Gregory wanted to start his first business. I worked nights, weekends, extra shifts to keep us afloat. When his dreams crumbled, I was the one who quietly paid bills, saved for Amelia's education, and patched together the life he recklessly tore apart. While he chased hobbies, careers, and women, I was the constant, the glue, the stability. I wasn't naive. I knew Gregory was selfish, but betrayal to this degree, on the very day we were celebrating our daughter, that was a new level of cruelty. 3 months before the graduation, I noticed something strange. Small transfers in our joint accounts, amounts most people wouldn't question. But I've worked as a finance manager for decades. Numbers are my language, and these numbers were whispering betrayal. So I did what Gregory never thought I'd do. I investigated. Hidden accounts, jewelry receipts, real estate inquiries, and then his phone, a series of text messages to Cassandra, a woman nearly 2 decades younger than me. Their grand plan was simple. Gregory would announce his freedom after the graduation. He would humiliate me in public, walk away looking powerful, and begin his shiny new life with Cassandra. But here's what he didn't know, was that I had already filed for a divorce. I had already frozen accounts, and I had already weaponized the very prenuptial agreement he once forced me to sign. The clause, fidelity. His affair meant he'd lose nearly everything. Inside that cream-colored envelope was his undoing. Divorce papers, bank statements proving his transfers, evidence of his affair. Gregory thought he was playing chess while I was playing checkers. But in reality, I was playing chess while he was playing tic-tac-toe. When he stormed out of the restaurant after me, red-faced and furious, yelling, "What have you done?" I simply walked away. I didn't need to raise my voice. The law, the evidence, and karma were already on my side. That evening, Gregory arrived home slamming the door like a teenager. He waved the papers at me, shouting about betrayal. Divorce on today of all days? Yes, I said. It aligns nicely with your plans. He smirked, trying to regain control. The prenuptial expired years ago. You won't get anything. I smiled back. Actually, it didn't. Section 12, fidelity clause, still in effect. For the first time, I watched the color drain from his face. Gregory, the man who always had an answer, always spun lies into silk, was speechless. What made this even sweeter was Cassandra. She had no idea Gregory had separate accounts. No idea he had promised her properties and wealth he didn't actually own. And when the accounts froze, when the property deal collapsed, when the luxury car deposit vanished, she learned the truth fast. Gregory wasn't a knight rescuing her. He was a sinking ship, and she jumped overboard. The hardest part wasn't Gregory. It was Amelia. When she arrived at Diana's house that night, makeup smeared, shaking with rage, she asked me one question. Why didn't you tell me? I told her the truth. I wanted her last semester to be free from family drama. She deserved her moment. But when Gregory tried to spin the narrative, painting me as the bitter, irrational wife, Amelia stood tall. She looked her father in the eye and said, "You blew up our family on my graduation day. Don't you dare pretend this doesn't involve me." That was the moment I knew I hadn't just raised a smart daughter, I had raised a strong woman. The preliminary hearing was quick and brutal. The judge read the prenup out loud. Gregory's young, inexperienced lawyer squirmed. The accounts remained frozen, the house remained mine. Gregory left court, red-faced, muttering about unfairness. Unfair? What's unfair is stealing from your family for a year while pretending money is tight. What's unfair is planning to humiliate your wife on her daughter's big day. What happened in that courtroom wasn't unfair. It was justice. Months later, on what would have been our anniversary, the divorce was finalized. Gregory walked away with barely anything. His business floundered without my financial management. Cassandra was long gone, chasing a wealthier man. His friends abandoned him, disgusted by the truth. And me, I finally opened my financial consulting for women, the dream I had postponed for 28 years. The irony was delicious. The very prenup Gregory had once insisted on to protect himself was the same document that destroyed him. Revenge wasn't just about taking Gregory down. It was about rebuilding myself. I wasn't just Gregory's wife anymore. I was Bianca Caldwell, founder of Caldwell Financial Transitions, a mentor, an advocate, a woman who turned betrayal into power. The envelope I handed him at the restaurant wasn't just revenge, it was rebirth. And let me tell you, nothing feels sweeter than turning the weapons someone forged against you into the very blade that cuts them down. Gregory wanted a new life. He got it, alone, broke, and disgraced. I wanted freedom, and I got it, stronger, wealthier, and finally happy. The night I toasted my first clients at my new office, I realized the real revenge wasn't in what Gregory lost. It was in what I gained. My daughter's respect, my sister-in-law's loyalty, my independence. And above all, peace. They say revenge is best served cold, but in my case, it was served with precision, patience, and a cream-colored envelope. Because sometimes the sweetest justice isn't just watching someone